Okay, ladies. So I'm wanting to bring up the topic of past relationships
Okay.
and interested in knowing what you both have learned from some of your past relationships.
Okay.
I would like to start with a story about a past relationship of mine that really was an eye-opener experience for me. So one of my ex-boyfriends, we went on vacation to Cancun, Mexico. And
Hey.
it was supposed to be this really fun, great trip. And it was for like the first day. And the second day, throughout most of the day, was pretty good. But we got to this point where we had went on this catamaran tour and went out to one of these islands. We went around on the island. He just got finished buying me this like nice gift. It was sweet. And then we got back to the dock. We were waiting to board the catamaran again. And all of a sudden, I started feeling like really sick. Like, that was the first time I ever realized I got seasickness.
Okay.
And it didn't help that I had two ramen punches on the boat. So it was just like a mixture of like alcohol and seasickness. So
No.
I ended up getting really like feeling really sick, and I told him, I'm like, I don't feel good. Like, this isn't I'm not feeling great. I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, here, take this bag. And so I took it and I started vomiting basically. And he was basically just acted, his body language acted like he didn't want to like be around me. And the boat started boarding and he was like, come on, we have to go. And I'm still in the middle of being sick. You know what I mean? I just like, give me a moment. Like, I can't stand right now. Like, the world is spinning, you know? And
Yeah.
he just walked off and left me sitting there on the boardwalk while he boarded the boat. Didn't tell anybody like I was sick or anything. So I'm over here like carrying a bag, like dizzily trying to hobble my way back towards the boat.
No.
Like, at least the boat person was still like nice enough to stand there, be like, come on, come on, and like take your time, like all that. We're sitting on the boat, and I finally, the sickness kind of started to subside a little bit. And I tried talking to him, and he just acted like he didn't want to talk to me and was just very cold. And in my mind, I'm just like, I don't understand what I did other than get sick. You know what I mean? Like, I was sick and you're acting as though I attacked you or something. And he really kind of just soured the mood of the entire trip. Like, the entire
Yeah.
trip was just acting very cold and weird, and just would be snappy with me, tell me to hurry up. Like, I was being an inconvenience to him. And
Ooh.
at the time, I should have taken that and left, because that was one of the biggest signs that he didn't really care that much about me. And he wasn't willing to nurture me in the ways that I needed to be nurtured. But I stayed.
Right.
I stayed, and I paid for staying because I kept being put on the back burner over and over and over and over again. And it kind of just led to my getting heartbroken at the end of the day. But I think that was one of the big turning points for me, where I had to realize that I did not hold myself to as much value and worth as I should have, because if I
Yeah.
did, I would have dropped it. I would have left him. At very least, I would have put him in his place, because we never had a conversation about it even. Never. I just kept my mouth shut
Wow.
and kept it pushing, and internalized all those feelings that I felt about it, and tried pleasing him and tried getting him back into his happy place again, and forgot about me.
Every
So
episode, y'all have me crying. I don't like mini episodes no more. Ugh. What?
that was my biggest lesson, was that I decided I couldn't put myself on the back burner anymore. And it took me a few more times, a few more relationships to really get that down. But that was like the biggest realization. That was like the first moment where it dawned on me, like, girl, what are you doing? And even though it took me a few times to get the lesson, I got it. In time, I got it. You know, don't put yourself on the back burner for anybody. Like, you shouldn't have to feel small.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the happiness, you know?
Absolutely.
So, that was my big
I mean, but it's kind of hard when you think about it in terms of like making that shift, right? You know, because you enter into a connection or a relationship and you're feeling this person and you want this person to feel you back, you know, and to feel like that. I think one of the worst feelings is to feel like you've disappointed or turned off or let somebody down, and it was behind something that you really didn't have much control over. You know what I mean? Where in that moment you needed compassion, not judgment. You know what I mean? And it wasn't given to you. And it makes you question, do I deserve compassion? Am I this horrible? Am I just so horrible that I just have the look of somebody who gets seasick while drinking alcohol, you know? Versus really just understanding that, you know, these things happen to us to show us how we are not showing up for ourselves and to show us who's for us and who's not. And when we choose to allow people, I'm talking to myself, when we choose to allow people to stay in our lives, in our energy, and we choose to stay in connections where we know they cannot give us what we deserve, how are we showing up for ourselves? How does that speak to if we truly love ourselves? Like, and for real.
I can say, like, I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
Like, that's a profound realization, because I couldn't even give myself the compassion. I started questioning myself. Like, did I really do something wrong? Even though I knew I didn't, but you know, you start judging yourself on top of feeling judged or mistreated or whatever. I did not give myself the grace. I didn't allow myself to stand up for myself on top of everything. And I covered my voice. I just kept trying to make things better, but I didn't make things better. Like, I made things worse, you know, by continuing to act as though I could ignore it. And it wasn't something that needed to be ignored. It was something that I needed to address within myself. Not even to like remove the part of addressing him about it.
Right.
But I had to address it for me. And I made excuses for myself. I was like, oh, it'll be better. Maybe he's just in a bad mood, or maybe it's just this, or maybe it's just that. And you can make 1,001 excuses.
Right.
But still avoid the truth. You know?
I think I'm really emotional because I think when you were at like your lowest, and I'm not saying your sickness was your lowest, but in that moment, that was the low of the trip, I would imagine. So when you were at a low point, you expect people to show up.
Right.
The people you care about, the people you love.
Yes. You expect people to show up. And that during COVID, when I tell you people went through during COVID, I was one of those people who went through during COVID. So I didn't get COVID when COVID was at this high. I actually was out and about taunting COVID. So, but in those moments when America was at its low, is the challenge, and you felt like people should really show up for you when we were confined, and it was just that small circles of people who you trusted to be around. You would think those were the people who show up for you in relationships, and you quickly realize that your circle is a lot smaller than what you thought it was.
Yeah. The people that really care.
Yeah.
And invest time and energy just in honoring the connection, no matter what that looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
But those are valuable lessons, though.
It
to
is.
Learn, because when we don't value ourselves, we allow ourselves to be in positions where people can mistreat us and consistently get away with it. You know, and so those lessons have to be learned, especially if you're a person that wants to grow and wants to understand, like, what does it mean to love myself? It's not allowing people to treat you any kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not allowing space for people to mishandle you and you don't speak up. You know, the truth is we set the standard for how people even love us anyway. If we're not loving ourselves, they're not going to love us. So when they do cross a boundary, when they do mishandle us, we have to, no matter how uncomfortable it is, we have to speak up for ourselves, you know. And we all learn that lesson, whether it's the easy way, the hard way, or somewhere in between. That's really the point, is to get the lesson. And you keep revisiting that lesson. Like you said, Ava, you had several relationships after that, and then you got it. You keep recycling the same experience until you extract that lesson.
And you want to know the wild thing about all that is that I, at that time, thought that was going to be my person. Like, I thought that I envisioned a life with this person, and I thought I was ready for all that, because I was like, oh, I'm wifey material, I'm such a nurturer, like I'm such, like I have so much to give. Like, I knew what I had to offer without a doubt, but I completely missed the fact that I also needed to give to myself. And to allow myself to be treated a particular type of way that I had value and worth that I was overlooking. And so when I think back now as that girl who was just like, I'm ready for marriage, I'm ready for the kids, I'm ready for the life, where is it? Give it to me now. And I sit where I am today, I'm just like, I'm thankful. I wasn't in a position where I made like a rash decision, or that was an option that was put on the table. Like, you know, because I'm glad that it ended, because I was not prepared. I wasn't ready, because I myself was not prepared. I myself hadn't learned those lessons. I would have allowed myself to be in a connection that would have ended, because I was not ready internally to love myself and the way for love elsewhere.
Or would have ruined you even more. Like, it would have put you down like a series of events that just made you not value the things that you knew for sure, like you was wife material. Then you'd be like, okay, well, maybe I'm not. And then you start to devalue those things that you spoke highly upon yourself about.
That whole relationship, honestly, looking back on it, was very emotionally damaging for me. Like, very emotionally damaging. Not that he was a bad person, because he's not a bad person, but he had his own sets of issues. And neither of us were in a place where those issues could be looked past. You know, those were issues, like, each of us had our things that we had to address within ourselves, but neither of us were in a position to address those issues. And so it just created a connection that was not healthy in the end of things. And I don't know where his side of things, but for me, it was very emotionally damaging. And I then had to heal from that, you know? But then that I then went through all these other relationships where I repeated the same patterns and the same habits, and it would compound that until finally I was just like, something's got to give. I have to work on myself first before I can take on a connection and bring somebody else into my world. If I
Absolutely.
want a healthy connection, I have to work on being healthy myself.
Absolutely. I agree. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh,
She said, "Aw."
because I mean, that really, look, I'm trying to tell you, like when that happened to me, it made me really sit back and think like why I reacted the way that I reacted about stuff. And I found a pattern. And it was relationships with just like my parents, a relationship with like my siblings, my relationship with my husband. Like I could see how it transpired in each of those relationships and how I felt when certain things happened. And it was like my aha moment. And I was like, you know what? I have to do better because I don't want this in the relationships that I create, that I cultivate. I don't want to insert that because I felt neglected in situations and I didn't want to feel neglected. I didn't want to give neglect to anybody because I felt it was given to me, you know? And I have to evaluate to see if it was a me issue, again, internalizing, trying to see, but I was like, no, because I feel like I show up for you, especially when you need me to show up. I compromise my own situation so that I can show up for you. So, yeah.